Hello there, welcome to Nerd.World. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the USS Saratoga, not the one from the more famous Star Trek franchise but from a lesser known sci-fi franchise in the late 90s, Space Above and Beyond. Before we get started, if you like this video or any others on my channel, please like, share and subscribe. Please comment down below anything you want me to cover, or if you like this ship or got any thoughts on it, or if you remember the Space Above and Beyond show, or feel like I feel that it was cancelled way before its time. With all that said and out of the way, let's get started with this video. A little late insert before I actually get started. If you can hear a weird kind of droning sound in the back of this video or some of my others, it's my 3D printer over here printing off some props for the cosplay me and my partner are going in for Destination Star Trek this year, 2020. Assuming it's not cancelled like the one in Germany has been. It's just printing away in the background. Hopefully it's not too distracting. The USS Saratoga SCVN-2812 is a John F. Kennedy class naval space supercarrier owned and operated by the United States Navy and was the flagship of said Navy. It was primarily built to deploy, operate and maintain fighter air wings and would be home to numerous fighter wings which would operate from that specific carrier. And although in Earth's war with the Chig many squadrons would distinguish themselves, the 5-8 would be a notable squadron both on the Saratoga and in general across the wider ranging naval assets operated by the various allied naval and military forces of Earth's ongoing conflict. The vessel's weapon systems for conventional combat, as this vessel would be expected to engage in conventional warfare as well as relying somewhat on its escorts, were kinetic particle weapons, pulse laser cannons, as well as missile and torpedo systems. It would operate during the Chig War primarily and would be involved in numerous significant battles of that war, such as the Battle of Tartarus. The vessel's commander throughout the Chig War was Commodore Ross, a stern and sometimes humorless but sometimes also misunderstood commander in the fleet, who was very determined to win and see his vessel exit the war in one piece and lose as few crewmen as possible. Now, I don't know about anyone else who used to watch Space Above and Beyond, or if you have watched Space Above and Beyond. If you haven't, you need to. This series was an early attempt at a space opera show, much like Babylon 5. Its intention was to have a multi-season arc, and this vessel was its Enterprise, its Millennium Falcon. And although a lot of attention is given to the Hammerheads, sometimes not enough love is given to the flagship and carrier that supported them in their war and in their conflict, and the brave men and women that fought to defend Earth against the evil incursions and threat posed by the inhuman Chig species. Death to Chigs. Yeah. Now anyway, I really enjoyed this series, and I used to think the ship, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the vessels from The Fifth Element. It kind of looks a bit like them. It's basically a sort of combination of a Star Destroyer and, let's say, the Venator class Star Destroyer, and one of those ships which we see in The Fifth Element firing at the big god thing planet. It kind of looks a bit like them, but I mean it's not an overly elaborate design, but it's functional. It has an aesthetic of its own. It's pleasing on the eye, even though it is quite simplistically designed. It's basically a big flying brick, engines on the back, bristling with guns with fighter bays on underneath it. But it's very functionally designed. You can see how someone thought this would be a good platform. They thought we need a base in space that can move, that can deploy fighters, but can defend itself when it itself is attacked. So this thing is a hybrid of both direct combat vessel, at least the ability to defend itself, levels of weaponry, good armor and protection, as well as speed, but primarily it is there to deploy, recover and support ground invasions and dogfighting efforts and long-range attacks by fighter craft. as well as, as I say, the command ship and base of operations for a series of smaller support craft that would operate in its flotilla. This vessel was by no means built in a vacuum. Earth was to deploy multiple of these ships, they were a bit like the Nimitz-class supercarriers, deployed by the US Navy in the 20th and 21st centuries. These are very impressive ships, but are by no means the only one of their class. The USS Saratoga, in particular, amongst the John F. Kennedy class, and like many others of its sister ships, was manufactured by Aerotech Space Division, Newport News, Virginia, and was assembled at the James Lovell Orbital Assembly Facility. The vessel was powered by nuclear fusion drives and had two MF-3600 engines. It also had additional chemical rockets to, in an emergency, decelerate the vessel. There are 3 of these mounted at the front of the ship. Its armament as standard, without any modifications, were 13 laser cannons, 2 450 megawatts, 1 1.2 gigawatt laser cannons, 6 300 megawatts and 4 50 megawatts. It also had 30 Phalanx 2 missile launchers and 72 torpedo launchers, although these weapon systems could be swapped out. It was capable of, in standard configuration and a standard mission, holding onto and deploying 168 Hammerhead fighters, 14 Stingray recon planes, 4 Barracuda fighter bombers, 4 spaceborne warning and control vehicles, as well as a multitude of other assorted craft such as light transports and scout craft and landing vehicles for embarked troops, of which it could additionally carry 565 infantry, as well as 1,300 US Marine Corps Air and Space Cavalry, as well as other support personnel. In other words, this ship had a lot of people, a lot of firepower, a lot of guns, and was no easy target for the Chig. Go humanity. When Earth deployed this vessel against the enemy had to worry about what was in front of them, and humanity really didn't, because this thing was going to knock aside all the enemies of mankind and flatten pretty much any resistance. This ship, despite inferior technology, was produced to a much higher build quality and standard than what the Chigs were generally fielding. Although again, due to superior weaponry and technologies, this vessel did have some inadequacies, but more than made up for it with technical ability, training, and the skill level of the men and women serving on board the USS Saratoga. Basically, the only thing that humanity had to worry about when they had this ship in the field was not the enemy in front of them, but the enemy behind. As another wise man once put it, the real enemy are those damn dolphins back in the ocean, yeah? You gotta watch out for them. You're turning your back on them with this thing. Most of its guns face forward, sending out into deep space. You're leaving us really vulnerable. Who knows what kind of weapons they've been giving the Chigs, or the Chigs are giving to them. Right, so that's enough Generation Tech references. I personally really liked this series, and I hope everyone did too, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to do more videos on Space Above and Beyond Universe at some point in the future, so if you're interested, stay and keep a lookout for those. And with all that said, bye-bye.